right. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Working People, a podcast about the lives, jobs, dreams, and struggles of the working class today. Brought to you in partnership with In These Times magazine and the Real News Network, and supported entirely by listeners and viewers like you. Audio for Working People is produced by the amazing Jules Taylor, and we are also publishing a video version of today's episode on the Real News Network YouTube channel, produced by our wonderful studio manager, Dwayne Gladden. In today's episode, we're going to talk about an important worker struggle that's happening as we speak in the historic Colonial Williamsburg, where hospitality workers represented by Unite Here Local 25, who have already endured extended layoffs during the pandemic, are fighting back against intransigent management to secure better and fairer working conditions. According to a press release from the union local this week, quote, Unite Here Local 25, the union representing hospitality workers negotiating with Colonial Williamsburg, has reached out to a federal mediator to help facilitate negotiations with Colonial Williamsburg management. Local 25 is calling on the foundation to meet with union negotiators and the mediator this coming Friday, December 17th, and Monday, December 20th. The Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, which has skipped 7 bargaining sessions since August, has refused to meaningfully engage with workers' demands to end forced overtime. Currently, Local 25 members in Colonial Williamsburg routinely work 6 and 7 days a week in the hotels and 10 and 12-hour days in the taverns, a practice workers are demanding an end to in the next contract, end quote. So workers have been picketing in front of Colonial Williamsburg's historic buildings this week to demand better working conditions. And I'm honored to be joined by some of those workers right now, and I want to introduce y'all to them. So why don't we go around the table and introduce ourselves?
My name is Agatha Hill. I'm a worker at the Colonial Williamsburg Lodge for 11 years now, and it's been rough.
Yes, my name is William Brown. And I've been with Colonial Williamsburg going on 7 years in July, and I'm a houseman attendant.
I'm John Boardman. I'm the chief negotiator for Unite Here Local 25.
And, I wanted to maybe start off by kind of building on what Agatha and Willie were just saying before we get to, say, the contract negotiations right now. I was wondering if you could give viewers and listeners, I guess, a sense of the kind of work that you do at Colonial Williamsburg and what that has looked like over the past couple of years, especially with this pandemic. We know that Unite Here members suffered some of the probably the most layoffs across the country during the pandemic, and now you've gone from that to working forced overtime. Could you just give listeners a sense of what you go through on a week-to-week basis?
Well, we go through a lot. We work 6 and 7 days every week, every month. Like I tell you, like January, February, it's slow. So when it's slow, they run you off the clock those times. You can't work no hours, but the other rest of month, we work 6, 7 days. We strip our room, we pull it in bags, we walk, look linen to work. We can't get to go home to cook. I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old at home. I reach home after 6. I have to cook those times they can eat. By 9 o'clock, they got to go to their bed. The food can't digest. You can't get to go to store to buy food. You have to call out. You can't go to the doctor, you have to call out, tell them you can't come that day, get different appointment. And when you talk, the manager said, well, the hotel is full, you can't get that day to go to doctor. I asked one day, who tell you guys that we can work 6 days? Miss Carolyn, she said, yes, you can work 6 days. It's very rough. Nobody want to come. When they come and see the condition and how they treat us and how we have to work like slaves, they don't come back. So we need help. And them is getting 2 days off. Manager, supervisor getting their 2 days off. And while we have to work every 6 or 7 days. a week every month, and that is not fair. It's not fair. We can't get to go home to clean up our house. We can't get even to bed. Sometimes you sit down one place and you can't get up where you're tired. When you walk, your foot bottom hurts. I have a worker named Miss Marriott. She said she put her pot on the fire and she fell asleep, the pot burning up because we're tired. We need help. We can't take this no more. It's a disaster. And no thanks, and they talk to you anyhow when they're ready. So it's not right. So we need some help. I don't say I can't work 6 days sometime, but not every God week. It is rough. It is very, very rough.
Yeah, because like I say, we can't get the linen that we need for the girls. The linen supposed to be here. The contract, linen supposed to be here like 10 in the morning. And these girls got to wait. Sometimes we don't get the linen until 3 o'clock in the evening. By that time, them girls already been through the rooms. And then they got to go back to the room and put washcloths, towels, and stuff. And after they done already worked all through the day, they tired. And they getting off 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. They got 13 rooms. They give them an extra 2 mandatory. That's 15. Mm-hmm. Then they want to give them 5 and 6 more rooms. That's 20-something rooms, which they don't try to come out there and help and do the rooms they said. They want to keep on coming out there pushing rooms on people.
That's right.
You know, and the housemen, we short of help. They can't hire nobody because nobody want to come here because they don't want to pay them. So they throwing all the workload on us. We tired, you know. One day off ain't enough, you know. For that one day, you go home, take a shower, and go to bed. Then the next day, you know, you want to rest. And then you ain't got time the next day because you got to be right back in here, but your body's still tired. Mm-hmm. But they seem like they don't care. Like I say, the supervisors get their 2 days. They can be with their families and stuff, but we still here. So I don't know why we got to be here 6 days if the supervisors ain't got to be here, because that's the case. We still short of supervisors that day they off. So I don't know why we're getting treated like that, because your body get tired and broken down. And we've been doing this for a long time. And the money we making is nothing. You know, you got to pay. Y'all know the gas prices is high. Driving back and forth to work every 2 weeks. So you put a lot of money in your gas tank. So you really ain't making nothing, you know. That's why some of these girls buy these rooms, because they need money to make ends meet. I mean, how you gonna make ends meet what they paying us? You know, so it's just stressful too. You know, I just don't understand why they won't sign a contract. They can't get no help in here. So if they don't get no help, guess what? We got to still keep doing it. It's every day. They don't ask you, can you work 6 days? They just throw the schedule up there.
Yes.
Don't even care, you know. So I don't know.
And, you know, John, I wanted to bring you in here and ask if you could say a little bit about kind of this, like what makes, I guess, Colonial Williamsburg, you know, a bit of a special case. Like, obviously, what Agatha and Willie are describing is sadly something we've heard from workers, you know, across industries, across the country, right? Jobs treat workers like crap. They pay them like crap. And so turnover is high. And so the people who stay are being forced into more and more overtime. That seems to be a really, you know, disgusting trend for a lot of workers around the country. And, you know, in the hospitality industry, it can be especially backbreaking when you're trying to get to X number of rooms in a certain amount of time. Like Willie and Agatha were saying, you got the linens, you got so many things to check on your list. But I guess for folks watching, like, they may not have expected something like this to be happening at the sort of like historic settings of Colonial Williamsburg. So I guess, could you give us a little sense of the particular situation there?
Thanks, Max. Well, I think the eloquence with which Agatha and Willie described the situation captures it certainly better than I do. But what your listeners probably don't think about is that the hospitality industry is a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day industry. And what's happening in this situation is Agatha and Willie are required to do their job. They're being forced to work 6 and 7 days a week. But management is not doing their job. Their job is to hire people. And part of what you are hearing, particularly with what Willie was saying, is that they don't get paid enough. That's part of management's excuse right now, Max, that we can't hire people because we don't pay enough. Well, if we had concluded the negotiations 6 months ago, which was what the union was trying to do, we would have had wage rates increase, which would have facilitated hiring more people, which would have made it easier for Agatha and Willie to get the time off that they need to have with their families. Sadly, the history here is at Colonial Williamsburg, and you go back 150, 160 years, think about this. At that point in time, the people that were working at Colonial Williamsburg were not receiving any wage at all. Here we are 150, 160 years later, and Agatha makes $12.50 an hour. 150 years later, the difference between what was paid then, nothing, and what is paid now is $12.50. I think that just says it all. The work that they do contributes to the financial viability of this institution, and they should be recognized with a wage rate that reflects the hard work that they do. But more importantly, and the key issue here is a matter of respect for the idea that there's life outside work. It isn't enough simply to say that the business needs you and we command you to come into work. And if you don't come into work, guess what? We're going to fire you. That can't be acceptable. 65 years ago in America, we decided that a work week should be 5 days, 40 hours. And yet somehow Colonial Williamsburg thinks that teaching history means that you should be living it at work every day. Enough is enough. People need to have a life outside work. They need a rational workload. They need to be able to be with their families. And you heard Agatha say it a moment ago. Everyone in this industry recognizes that when occupancy or cover counts in the restaurants go up and down, sometimes we do have to work overtime. Everybody in this industry knows that, but not week after week, month after month. Bodies breaking down, families missing parents. That's not right, and it has to change.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, like, even, and we'll kind of play some of the B-roll for this, but I think that was one of the things I was most struck by when I saw y'all picketing, to raise awareness about this earlier this week. Just the optics are mind blowing, given what we know, about Colonial Williamsburg. You have, black and brown workers, hospitality workers saying we need to spend time with our family. We're not being paid enough to actually live our lives. And amidst all of that, the management is skipping bargaining sessions. I mean, like, how do you treat the people who make your business run with such disdain? I don't know. And, Agatha, I know, kind of to the point of everything we're talking about, you have to get back to work in a second. So before you leave, I guess I wanted to ask you if you could talk to viewers and listeners a bit about what management's response has been to you and your coworkers raising these issues, and what you really want viewers and listeners out there to know about what's happening right now.
Well, what's happening right now, we hardly have people to work, I understand. But they can treat us better. They can give us, even every other week, and 2 days off, I would like that you can get to clean up your house, run to the store, do what you have to do, and then come back to work. But then they're not saying nothing, they just want their work to done. That's all. And if you call out, they write you up. So I don't see what's happening right now.
Well, they should. I think they should come out on the floor and help the women, you know what I'm saying? Instead of giving them girls all of them room. They're already tired. Mm-hmm. That's not easy work what them women do.
Mm-hmm. One room, 2 beds, especially Tazwell, 2 bed, 2 bathroom. And that is not right. Sometimes people pick up all 24 rooms. What you can do in 24 rooms?
Then the house been doing 2 buildings. I'm doing 2 buildings, but I'm only getting paid for 1. You know what I mean?
And 2
buildings, that's a lot of work. You know, it's hard. Bad enough you got to do your 1 building and keep that straight. But then we so short of help. They just throw you out there. If you got 3 houses here, you might have 2.5 buildings. You can't do all of that work. But they don't care. They just throw you out there.
Okay.
Expect for you to do the work. You know, I ain't but one person. You know, I can't do it all. But I try to do what I can do, but I can't do it all, you know, because I'm one body. I can't do all that work, especially and I'm not getting paid enough to do that work.
And if you even like fell down or you get your finger cut or anything, then say it's purpose. Because I did fell down off a step, 9 step, and they say railing is there, so it's purpose. Miss Mary picked up something off the floor, get her finger cut, they say it's purpose. And they don't busy with you. You have to stand your own doctor fee. Then don't business. I go to court, I have to stand all my doctor fee. Then one pay, they pay $150. That's all I have to stand. All the rest I sit out 1 month with my ankle swell. I have a tear ankle. They have to sit out 1 month and spend all of my money. There's not good. I don't see where Colonial Williamsburg good. I don't see. But people have to work because they want money to pay them bills and take care of their kids.
We don't get no Christmas bonus. We don't get no Christmas parties. And then when you do get a Christmas party, you got to bring your own stuff here, potluck. They should be looking out for us, so us got to bring stuff. You know?
Yes, we have to cook food and buy soda and buy bread and bring to keep our own party. There's no good. I don't see where they're good. They just want money in their pocket. That's all.
Man, and just so I'm clear on what you're saying, Agatha, you're saying that when workers at Colonial Williamsburg get injured, management accuses them of doing it on purpose?
Yes. They tell Miss Marrett. They tell me that step. They send me to Medicare Express and they send me back at work with my sick ankle swelling up. And I have to argue with the doctor and then they send me to Kingsmill, Riverside. And when they x-ray it, they say I have a tear, something in my foot. And the doctor put me out for 1 month and 2 weeks. And I have to pay every doctor bill. All they have paid is $50 to Medicare Express. That's all. They say it's purpose because the railing was there to hold on coming down the step. And Miss Marrett cut her finger to pick up a piece of sign thing. She didn't know that it was a razor. That's a little. And Miss Caroline says purpose. And Byron said, no, Miss Caroline, it's just a shine something. So he just bending and pick it up out the room. He didn't know that it was a razor. Lord, not too much.
And then the linen cost that we have there right now, as we speaking, I've been telling them for the longest time, them costs about 25 years old, 30 years old. They hard to push, and I've been telling them that stuff can hurt your back. I mean, they so old, it don't make sense. The wheels barely can move, and you got to push that stuff down the hall with all this heavy sheets and stuff, and they won't do nothing about it to get us some stuff in here. Then you tell them your back hurt, they think you're lying. So them costs is old. If you see them yourself, you'll say, I don't know how they do it, but we do it because they won't get us the right stuff so we can do the work.
And, I think we'll kind of round things out talking to John and Willie about, where the negotiations such that they are currently stand. But Agatha, before you have to hop off, I wanted to ask if you had any kind of final messages for folks watching and viewing on what they can do to show support for you and Willie and your coworkers.
I want them to campaign or put it out there in the air and let them know. So we need help at Colonial Williamsburg Lodge. We need help and we need a raise. And we need better management.
That's why we can't get no help right now because everybody going to other places because we're not paying nobody nothing. You know what I mean? So why would they come here if they go somewhere else and get more money?
More money. McDonald's paying $17 and then pay us $12.25, $12.50. Lord have mercy.
What we're seeing at Williamsburg is really a reflection of what's going on nationally. Workers have been enduring horrendous conditions for years. The level of income inequality has increased dramatically over the last 2 decades. Working conditions, as you've heard here at Colonial Williamsburg, are from a period of time more than 65 years ago, with 6 and 7 day work weeks, 12-hour days in the culinary areas. What you've also heard is a determination on the part of the workers to change these conditions, to make sure that going into the future, they have time with their families, that they are able to get an income that supports them sufficiently so that they can do the things they need to do, pay rent, buy food. These are not extravagant salaries, but they ought to be sufficient to support a family, including the children. Again, the issue that you heard today primarily was one of job conditions. This business of requiring people week after week to work 6 and potentially 7 days, it can't go on. You heard about the injuries. You heard about the inability to spend time with children, with families, to do simple things like buy groceries or to cook a meal or sit around the kitchen table and do homework with your child. The workers at Colonial Williamsburg right now are too exhausted to do those things when they get home. They don't have enough time with only 1 or potentially no days off during the course of a work week to have any kind of life outside work. Those times ended in America 65 years ago. Why is it that at Colonial Williamsburg, this important historic location believes that it's okay to treat people like that now? You also heard Agatha say, we recognize that we have to work occasionally. She even volunteered that maybe she would be willing to work 1 or 2 6-day weeks a month. And yet, management continues to hang on to the proposal that they want to be able, unfettered, to force people to work. Forced work. We got rid of that a long time ago in the United States, and it needs to end at Colonial Williamsburg.
And I mean, I'm kind of dumbstruck, honestly, asking this question, but clearly we need to ask it. What is the retort from management? Like, how is that an unreasonable request, right? And how is it possible that they could skip, multiple bargaining sessions over this issue? I guess another way of phrasing that is, what is management's kind of reason for not meeting kind of the union's demands, not bargaining in good faith, and where do things stand right now with this push to have a mediator involved in the negotiations?
Well, the good news is they are coming back to the table on Friday afternoon. So I don't know what kind of progress, if any, will be made on Friday, but we have gotten them back to the table Friday afternoon. We plan to have a session to continue the bargaining. With respect to the other part of your question, Max, what is the reason that management gives? It's the same reason that management always gives, that the interests of the business take precedent over any requirement of life outside work, be it family, be it church, be it anything, that we need you at work, and therefore we should have a right to command you to give us your time whenever we need it. That's forced work. Everybody recognizes that a 5-day week is a reasonable requirement. 65 years ago in the U.S., that's what we determined as a society was acceptable. In our industry, we also recognize that occasionally, because of the ebb and flow of occupancy or meals served, that we have to work overtime. That is part of the bargain that we make when we work in this industry. But it is unreasonable for management to continue to cling to the position that because the business needs it, people should give up family life, should give up the health and safety of working in an environment that doesn't break down their bodies. I don't understand how anybody in the 21st century can make that argument and keep a straight face. The only thing I can tell you, Max, is this is a historic situation, and maybe they are relying on history and the way people were treated in the past as a legitimate way to claim that they should be treated that way now.
I think that's well put, my man. And, I want to kind of thank you and Willie and Agatha for taking time to chat with us with everything going on right now. We really, really appreciate it. And I guess I wanted to ask if there were any sort of final notes about what Local 25 is doing, what folks watching and listening around the country can do to show support.
Max, there are a number of things that people can do. First of all, if you can recirculate this broadcast, that would be helpful, lifting up the voices of Agatha and Willie to others that you know. The other thing you can do is amplify the voice that they have on social media. Local 25 has been presence on Instagram. We have a presence on Twitter. Those are important social feeds and are getting a good deal of coverage. Lastly, if you really want to do something active, look up Colonial Williamsburg's main number, call management, leave a message, tell them to respect the workers, tell them to stop forced work and mandatory overtime, and sit back at the table and bargain a fair contract so these workers can have life outside work and wage levels that can support families. And I thank you very much for your interest in this fight and wish you the best.
So that is John Boardman, Executive Secretary Treasurer of Unite Here Local 25. And earlier on this broadcast, we were joined by Agatha Hilt, a housekeeper at the Williamsburg Lodge, and Willie Brown, also a houseman at the Williamsburg Lodge. And we thank them all so much for joining us. For everyone watching, this is Maximilian Alvarez at the Real News Network. Before you go, please head on over to therealnews.com/support. Become a monthly sustainer of our work so we can keep bringing you important coverage and conversations just like this. Thank you so much for watching.